Hello everyone, and thanks for joining me today for this demonstration of BrightManager, our practice management solution. The point of the demo today really is just to give you a run through of the software, show off some of the features, and hopefully show you how BrightManager will benefit you in your practice. So to start off with here, we're on the overview page. This is the main page that you see when you first log into BrightManager. And you'll see it's populated by various different widgets that are designed to give you kind of an overview of where you are with your work. So you've got things, for example, like a deadline overview, and you can see, for example, I've got some self-assessments, submission tasks coming up for the end of the month. And you can see I can view any time that's been logged and any task progress as well. These are all movable. You can change the size of them. If I unlock the layout here, you'll see that all of them can be deleted from the screen if you don't want to see them. You can move them around the page, and you can also resize them as well. So if you want a large or a small version of certain widgets, you can personalize that view to make it more relevant for you. So I'm just going to lock that back up again. Now, let's imagine that you need to quickly onboard a new client. That's very easy to do through BrightManager. So we'll just go over to clients here, click on new clients, and it will take us to the new client page. And we can use the autofill with company's house option if it's a limited company. So we'll show you that, and that will pull in all of the information about that company from company's house for you. So if we just pop in something to search for there, you can type in the company name here, or you can put the company number if you know what it is, and it will pull up that company for you. If you use a name, it will just search for anything it can find that matches the information that you've entered. So let's use this company here at the top as an example. And you can see it pulls in, for example, some information about the company, like the incorporation date, the company number, and the current director as well there. And you'll be able to actually view on Company's House to make sure that it's the correct company before you select it. And then when you select the company, it will then give you a list of all the directors within that company. In this instance, there's only the one director. If there were multiple directors here, it would list all of them. You'd be able to select the one that you want to make the main contact for the company. So we'll just go ahead and select this director here. And we can see now that's pulled in all of the information about the company. So we've got the company number, the status, the incorporation date, the registered address, and the SIC code there. And it's also grabbed for us all of the accounts and returns dates here as well. So we've got the company's house year end, next accounts due, and so on. So all we need to do is just populate the rest of the information. I'm not going to put absolutely everything in here, but we'll just put enough in to be able to create a client. So for example, if this client is also going to be a self-assessment client, you can very easily do that just by clicking the button here, and then just go ahead and select the current tax year. And that will then give you the correct self-assessment return date there. If you're going to be charging a fee for that service, you can pop that in there as well. And we'll go ahead and we'll add in an email so that we can show you the portal registration process in just a moment as well. And then we can go over to the services and select which services we want to provide for this client. Now, these are the built-in services within BrightManager. You can customize these. You can turn off any that are not applicable, and you can also create your own custom services to go along with these as well. But we'll just go ahead and just click on a few of them here, just so we've got some services to play with. And now regarding fees, we can enter in next to each service what we would be charging for that service as an annual amount. And then we can choose down at the bottom whether we're going to be charging, if we're going to be charging a flat annual or a flat monthly charge for those services. We can select that down here, and it will actually calculate what the overall fee it would be for that client. So let's say if this client is paying monthly, that would be the calculated monthly fee based on the prices for the services above here. And now we just need to make sure that all of the services have the correct deadline dates. So we've got most of the deadlines that we're going to need because of the company's house integration. So we've already got all of our year-end dates here. But anything that can't be pulled in through company's house, such as VAT or payroll, obviously that's going to be specific to the company. So you need to tell the system the frequency and when the next period ends. So let's say if that ends at the end of this month here, it will then work out when the next VAT return is due based on that date for you. And then it will use that as an anchor point to work out all of the future dates as well. And the same with payroll here. If we put in the payroll frequency, so let's say this client pays their employees monthly and they get paid at the, let's say the end of the month, it will then use that, like I say, to work out all of the future deadline dates for the payroll as well for you. So we're pretty much ready to go with this client now. So what I'm going to do is I can just add them to the system as a client, or if I click on the arrow next to it, I can add the client and create an onboarding workflow at the same time. So we'll just show that very quickly on how that works. So we'll click there, and it's going to use the built-in workflow system within BrightManager to attach a client onboarding template for this client, and we can choose who we want to assign that task to, and also select a deadline. So it defaults to 1 week, but you can change that to whatever you want in there. I'm going to go ahead and save the task there, and it will then add that to our task list for us. So we will come back and have more of a detailed look at the tasks in a moment, but I just want to continue with the client onboarding process at the moment. We can see here the onboarding workflow has been added to the bottom of that task. But as I say, we'll go more into how the workflows work in a few minutes' time. For the time being, I'm going to jump back into the clients, and we're going to send a proposal email through to the clients. So this button will appear once you've added them to the system. You need to make sure, obviously, you've got an email address for the client in order to send the email to them. And we'll click send proposal email, and it will then generate this proposal for us based on an email template that already exists on the system. You're free to edit those templates in whatever way you wish, but we'll just go ahead and obviously use the default one for the time being. So you can see here, it lists the services we've agreed to provide for the client and the associated fees. And because we selected monthly payment earlier on, it's also got the monthly charge there as well. Now we can hide things like the individual fees for the services if we want to here. Just hide the fee breakdown there, and that will just leave the monthly charge. We can also show the fees including VAT instead of excluding VAT, and we can also remove any mention of VAT altogether if necessary as well. So within this email, the important part here is the online registration link. That is what the client will click in order to complete the sign-up process and sign the letters of engagement and go ahead and become a client. So what we'll do is we'll click that now, and we'll show you what that looks like. So I'm just going to open that in a new window there, and I'm just going to move my screen share so that you can see that. There we go. So this is what the client will see when they click on that registration link within the email. Just get rid of the cookies there. So the first thing we have here are some terms and conditions. Now these will be your practice's terms and conditions. So again, there's a template within the system for you to put that information in, and the client can then click agree and sign. The client can also draw their signature or upload an image of their signature as well if they wish. So client can go ahead and sign. And then we've got the letter of engagement here as well. So again, this is another template. The letter of engagement template within BrightManager is already populated. We use ACCA wordings on our letters of engagements. However, you are free to edit those templates however you wish. And it will then generate a bespoke letter of engagement for each client as they come on board. So you can see here it's got the correct date, it's got the client's name, it's got the name of the staff member that will be dealing with them, and so on. So all of those variables pull through from the clients, from the template, from the client file into the template even. and then the client again will agree and sign. So in this case, we're going to have 2 letters of engagement because we've got that combination of a self-assessment client and the limited company. So this is the self-assessment letter first. Client will click that and agree. And then we've now got the limited company letter of engagement. And you'll find with that, it will just pull through the wordings for the services that you've already agreed with that client. So you can see here, it's only got the services that we ticked earlier on when we onboarded them, and it's pulled through those paragraphs into the letter of engagement as well. So once the client's read through and they're happy, again, they will agree and sign. And that will then bring them, that will then complete the actual onboarding part. So if you were to now go back over to BrightManager, you would find that they are now fully registered as a client. But what we now also have the opportunity to do is actually go ahead and create a client portal account for document sharing as well. So all the client needs to do, the email address is already populated. They just need to enter in what they want their password to be, and that will create their account. And then they'll be presented with this screen here. Now, this can be turned off if you don't want it to appear, but it's here in order to save you time and actually allow the client to self-serve and fill in any missing information without you having to chase after them for it. So essentially, they're just going to be asked to fill in the blanks. Any information you've already entered will already be populated on this page, and they can fill in as much or as little of the information as they can or as they happen to have to hand. So, for example, here we might want to fill in, say, the national insurance number or their UTR number, and maybe their mobile number as well. And you can also take the previous accountant's details for the professional clearance purposes, so you can actually automate the process of requesting professional clearance as well. So if we put in an email address there for the previous accountants, and then we'll hit continue at the bottom, and that will update the information on the system. We're getting a second page here again because we've got the limited company, but this will only appear the very first time they register. It's not going to come up and ask them to fill in this page every time they log into the portal. It's just to allow you to capture that information at the point of registration. The client can go back in and update it manually themselves later, but it's not going to pop up on the screen every time they log in, only when they very first register. So once they finish that process, we're now into the portal itself. So this is the standard landing page when the client logs into the portal. And you can see here it's got some welcome information. Now, this is actually populating from another template on the system. So you can, again, change the wording of that as you see fit. We've just put some generic information about registering with HMRC, providing ID, that kind of stuff. But you can put in anything you want in there. You can also brand the portal, so you can see how it's got the BrightManager branding at the top here. We offer 2 levels of branding. So there's a free level, which allows you to change the logo and the banner that goes behind the logo at the top, and also the menu highlight color. So you can change that to something that matches your company branding colors. That is free of charge. And then we also offer a white labeling option, which is an additional cost. It's not particularly expensive, but it does allow you full control over the entire look of the portal. So you can change all of the colors, all of the fonts that the system uses. You can change the logos. You'll get your own bespoke login page as well, but again with your own background image and logo. And the portal itself will actually be hosted within your own web domain. So instead of going to brightsg.com to log into the portal, the client would actually go to a page on your website to log in instead. So that is an option there for those that want it. The portal itself is very, very simple to use. So you've got a My Info section here. This is where the client can go back in to update their information. If they ever, say, change registered addresses or change their contact details, they can update that through the portal, and it will update on the client file within BrightManager. And they can also go and view, say, the terms and conditions that they signed and agreed earlier on as well. And then there's the portal itself here. This is where the client, or you and the client, can send documents to each other through the portal. So it's 2-way document sharing. So if we just click into, you can see it's separated between the client and the individual here. This is because they're also a self-assessment client. If they were just a director and not a self-assessment client, they would just have the company visible here. And obviously vice versa, if they're just a self-assessment and not a company, they just have their own individual portal. They'll also see if they're linked to other companies. So if they're directors of multiple companies that you deal with, as long as they're linked to those companies within BrightManager, they'll have access to the client portals for those different companies here as well. So they only need to remember one login to be able to access all of the portals for the different companies that they're associated with. But we'll just click into the Annie's portal here, and you can see any previously uploaded documents will be visible over here on the left, and then they can upload a new document there on the right-hand side as well. So I'm just going to quickly grab a file to upload. Just bear with me a moment. So you just drag a file into the box and then click upload. And that's as simple as that. The client can leave you some notes if they want to. They don't have to. It's not compulsory. But if they want to leave you a note, they can do in there, and then just hit save, and that will then upload the document into the document section, and you'll be able to view that from BrightManager itself within the client file. The only other pages within the portal here, you've got our upcoming deadlines, so the client can very easily see at a glance what their deadlines are for their different services. So if you've got clients that are always asking you what their deadlines are, they're actually able to view them from within the portal. There is a tax liabilities page. This will actually remind the clients when they need to pay their tax, but it does require you to have filled in on the client's file how much tax they actually owe for each of them. So for example, the self-assessment tax there, you would need to enter in the amount, and then it would show the amount and the date as well. And the same for VAT and corporation tax and so on. And then finally over here, the ability to change the password if they ever need to. And that's kind of it for the portal. It's very simple, very easy to use. It is also fully secure and GDPR compliant as well. So we'll switch back around now to the actual main BrightManager software. There we go. And if we get rid of the letter of engagement templates, we don't need that anymore. There we go. We'll now see that the client is registered and they're now fully on board as a client, so they're no longer showing as a prospect. If we go back out to the tasks over here, we can see it's no longer flagging that Annie's as a prospect anymore like it was before. And now we can also, if we need to, go ahead and run an AML check against the client. So let's go into the director there. You see there is the button there that will take you straight to the AML check page for this client. You can also access the AMLs from the client menu as well. Just here, you've got AML IDs and credit checks available. So this is a chargeable service within BrightManager, but it's also very useful because it will actually auto-populate the information that you need from the client file for you. So it's very quick and easy to run an AML ID check through BrightManager. It's very simple to do. You do need to purchase credits in order to use the system. The way it works is on a credit-based system. So you purchase credits online through the software. And then once you've bought them, they stay on the system until they're used up. There's no expiry date. They start from £3.21 plus VAT per check and go down from there depending on how many you buy. The more you buy in one go, the more discount we're able to offer on those. But once you've purchased some credits, you're then able to run an AML check, and you see you have got the option to do other kinds of checks as well. Like a company credit check, but we're going to focus on the AML ID check just here. And it will auto-populate when you select a person on the system. It will then auto-populate with their details. You can see I'm on a demo account here, so it's giving me some dummy details to show you how it works. And then you've got the option to add in any additional information like their phone number, national insurance number, passport number, or driving license number there as well, just to help the system find a better match. And then you can either run just a standard ID check, or you can run an ID check and the credit screen against the client at the same time. It's a soft credit screen that will check this information here. But you do need to make sure if you're doing that, that you inform the client that you are running a credit screen against them. It is a legal requirement that you do that. And you can see there how many credits each type of check will use. So an ID check on its own will use 1 credit, and an ID check and a credit screen together will use 2 credits. Once that's been run, that will then be visible against the client's file. Obviously, it will give you the results of the check, whether it's a pass or a fail. The checks are run through a third-party company called Verify. But as I say, it will actually save the certificate against the client's details for you. So alongside that, we also offer the ability to do the risk assessment against the clients as well. So again, if we go back into the client that we were looking at, we have a tab here on the client file labeled risk, and we're able to go into here and we can actually create a risk assessment against that client. Now, this was actually developed in conjunction with a former HMRC money laundering officer, and it's been designed to be very quick and easy to fill in, yet still be able to show all the information and store all the information that you need about that client. So obviously you can select, which staff members run the check, when you did it, and so on. But when you get down to the actual risk assessment itself, it's a very quick yes, no, or not applicable. So you go, have you confirmed their identity? Yes, you have. Have you verified their address? Yes, and so on. Have you identified who's got ultimate control of the company, etc. there as well. Once you've created the risk assessment, you can upload and store any supporting documents against it as well. So if there's any documents that you want to attach to that risk assessment to back up any observations that you've made, you can save those. And there's also space to add notes manually to it as well. And then you've got your areas of risk down at the bottom here as well. So if you notice anything unusual about the client that stands out and you want to log it, you can do that here. So for example, do they want to use the firm's bank account as a personal bank account? Yes. Do they only deal in cash? Yes, and so on. And then at the bottom, you can assign a risk level to the client, and that will actually be visible next to the client's name at the top of the page. And you can also, if you want to come back and review it at a later date, you can create a task to come back and review that as well. So again, you can select who's going to be responsible for doing that review and when you want it done. So let's say in 6 months' time. If you've already done the AML ID check against the client as well, the reference number from that search will be auto-populated in here as well. So it will link the risk assessment back to the AML check that you've done. And then you hit create, and that will then create a version of that risk assessment that can actually be downloaded as a PDF. You can go in and edit it and update it at any time as well. And it will actually store the previous versions, so you can compare them against each other. You see here on the left hand side, you've got your revision, so you've got your current version and you'll have any previous versions there as well, and you can look at the difference between them. So very, very useful feature. So that's it for the client onboarding. If we jump over to the tasks now, so when you add a client into the system, BrightManager will automatically create a list of all of the jobs that need to be done for that client, all of the different tasks, with all of the deadlines against them as well. And obviously, you can assign which staff members you want to be responsible for doing which tasks, and the system will automatically assign those tasks to the correct people for you as well. So this is listing now all of the jobs that have been assigned to Neil, so myself, and we can see it's listed in the morning deadline order. Now you can also see there it's color coding the deadlines to make them easier to stand out as well. So you can see at a glance which jobs are more urgent to complete, which ones are closer to their deadlines. So for example, if a job's still a way off, it's just going to be shown in the normal text here. But as you get closer, it starts to highlight them. So when they're this light yellow color, it means you're within 28 days of the deadline for that task. When they turn orange, like this one here, it means you're now within 10 days of the deadline of that task. And when you become within 24 hours of the deadline, they'll turn red. So it's very obvious to see sort of which jobs are going to be more important. You can also sort and filter your tasks to make them easier to deal with, depending on the time of year. So you've got your advanced search up here at the top, and you can sort and filter by different criteria here. So you can filter by staff member. Now, it obviously depends on whether you've got the permission to look at other staff members' tasks or not. But obviously, from the point of view of managing a practice, you can view all staff members' tasks together, or you can view different staff members' tasks individually. You can change search by service as well. So let's say, obviously, we're coming up to the end of January. We might want to see all of the self-assessment return tasks that we've got, so we can sort by just the self-assessment returns there, and then we can stack other filters on top of each other as well. So we can stack those filters on top of each other, so we can view, say, all self-assessment returns that are at a certain point in their progress. They might be, ready to review, they might be ready to submit, that kind of thing. You could view by client type, so you might want to see just your self-assessment clients and what tasks you've got for them, and so on here as well. And you can also set any saved search as a default view as well. So if you want the task list to default to a particular view every time you load it up, you can set your search criteria at the top here and then click set default, and that will apply that search as your default view. We're just going to do by service here, so I can show you. Obviously, you've got all your self-assessment return tasks there to do now. And if we go through a task and what you can actually do when you click on it, you've got various things here, such as the star that makes the task a favorite. And that just tells the system that you want to pay closer attention to those particular tasks. So there are, for example, options to sort the tasks up, the favorites up to the top of the page. So if I click there, for example, it's now brought those two favorites that I marked up to the top. You can also change it so you filter within a particular date range. If you just want to look at tasks with the deadline within a particular range, you can change it to sort it, say, alphabetically by client name or by partner or manager name. By records received date, if you wanted to just work on tasks where you've received all the records from the client, for example. And then this is quite a useful view as well, 30 days and then records received. So it will put all the tasks with deadlines within the next 30 days first, and then tasks below those where they're marked as records received. So that's quite a useful view to help you to see what work you've got to be getting on with. We'll just leave it on deadline view there for the time being. The red exclamation mark is the system telling you there's information missing which you need in order to be able to complete all of your tasks. And if I click here, it will actually list underneath what that missing information is. There is also automation within the system to actually chase after the client for that missing information as well. So ideally, by the time you come to complete a task, you shouldn't have any tasks showing a red exclamation mark, because you should have all the information that you need. You've got the task name itself here. If you click on there, it will take you within the task, and you can, for example, change the staff member that it's being assigned to, or assign a task monitor. So that might be a senior person within the team that you want to monitor that particular job or that particular staff member's work. And you can also choose to be notified as the staff member updates the progress on that task as well. We also have the overall task progress here. So this shows the latest action on that particular job. Now, some of these, and we'll look at these in the automation in a bit more detail in just a few minutes, but some of these have effects on the automated emails that go out from BrightManager. So, for example, when a task reaches the end of its period, whether that might be, a VAT quarter or a tax year or whatever it is that defines when you can start working on a task, it will then start emailing the clients, asking them for all of the records that you need for that particular service. So it might start, at the end of the year, emailing the client, asking them for all of their records so you can submit their accounts, or it might be the end of a VAT quarter and it starts emailing the client, asking them for information so you can submit their VAT return. Once the system has started requesting that information, it will automatically update the task progress to records requested. So when you see that against a task, you know that the system's already started emailing them, asking them for their information. And once you've received the records that you need from the clients, you can stop any further emails going out to them by changing that to records received. And that tells the system you've got everything you need from that client. So that will then stop the automated emails going out. That's just one example. Another one might be part records received. So if the client sent you incomplete records, you can actually tell the system what's missing. So let's say this might be, I don't know, some invoices or bank statements or whatever it is that you need. So let's say invoices September to December 2023. And we'll say update that, and that will tell the system there that that particular information is missing, and it will start emailing the clients to tell them that there's information outstanding that you still need, and actually list exactly what you typed into the box underneath, so the client knows exactly what you need them to send over to you. And again, by changing that to records received, that will then stop those reminder emails going out. But you've got other things in here as well that are just purely about task progress. So things like obviously in progress when you're working on a task, and then maybe to review when you need it to, to send it out to be reviewed, and then to send to client to approve when you want it to go out to the clients, and then ready to file once that's all been approved and you're ready to go ahead and submit that. Once you mark a task as complete by ticking the green tick over here, that will then update the system. It will remove that task and create a new one for the next period automatically. So you can see there I did the preparation. I also do the submission that goes with it here as well. That will then create a new task for the next period automatically. So we're now looking at a submission date of 31st of January 2025 for this client, because it's updated the deadline for us automatically. So the system will keep track of those deadlines for you. As mentioned, we also do have workflows within BrightManager that you can attach to the various tasks. So we'll just very quickly take a look at those. So to access them, we'll go up to the task menu and select our workflow manager here. This is where you control all of the workflows within the system. So firstly, you can create your own workflow templates. We'll click here, and let's say this is going to be a VAT workflow. We can then start building out the process that we want to follow to complete that workflow. So step one might be to gather information from the clients. So yeah, gather records from clients. And then again, over here, you can choose which staff member you want to be responsible for completing that particular task. And then once that's been done, the next stage might be to check all the records are complete. And then what you can do is actually group the tasks together. So all of the tasks within a group have to be completed before you can move on to the next group. So if we just call this preparation, let's say, and then we'll add a new group down here. And this might be to produce tax return. And then we can say, yeah, we confirm information is correct. And add a new subtask there to submit to HMRC and so on. And you can build out, obviously, if this was for real, you'd probably add a lot more detail to it, but you can see how you build up the process of what you want done to complete the overall task and break it down into the individual steps. You can also add things like emails. So let's say here, want to add an email to it, go email here. We can give that a title. Let's just call it your VAT return for now. We can choose who that email goes to from the client file, so whether it's the main contact or the secondary contact. We can set a template for this as well, so you can actually create a template on the system for it and then assign it here. If you don't assign a template, you'll get a blank email to type your own message to the client when you trigger this part of the workflow. But if you attach a template, it will automatically generate from that template. And then again here, we can choose for all of these steps which staff member is responsible. We can reorder these within their groups as well. And we can choose how long before the deadline we want these parts of the task to be completed. So let's say we want the first stage to be done 28 days before the deadline, and then the next stage to be done, let's say 10 days. And then the final stage, that might be the actual submission. We can bring that down there, say submit to HMRC there, and that's the final stage there. And that needs to be done, let's say, at least 3 days before the deadline, just to make sure it's in on time. So that might be our basic VAT workflow. We'll then create that on the system. So we've now got a VAT workflow here, and we can then go over to the settings and actually apply that to our VAT task. So we can go ahead here and select our VAT submission, and we'll go ahead and we'll add our VAT workflow to it. We can also, if we want to, you can see how the system splits the tasks into some of the tasks into two parts. So you've got, say, a preparation and a submission. That's done to accommodate the way some practices work. They like to have those two separated. If you don't like that and you just want to have a VAT task to complete, you can turn off the preparation task in the settings here, and that will actually remove the separate preparation task. And you can do that for any task that has the two separate preparation and submission tasks. You can disable the preparation versions of those tasks if you want to as well. But once you're ready to go, hit review changes here. It will tell you what's going to change on the system. So I've done two things here. First of all, I've applied a workflow to all the VAT submission tasks. And secondly, I've removed all of the VAT preparation tasks. And the system's asking me, do I want that to apply to existing tasks as well as new tasks? So I'm going to say yes, and then we'll update the workflow. And if we go back out to the tasks, we'll see now that we only have the VAT submission tasks rather than a separate preparation and submission, and that all of the VAT tasks now have our workflow template attached underneath them as well. So the way these work now, to complete them off, you mark them as either in progress or complete, and that will then mark that stage of the task as done. So yeah, in progress when you're working on it, and then complete when you're finished. And then once we've completed all the subtasks within a group, you'll see it will give us the next group to continue working on. So yeah, confirm the information, we'll say that's done. And then you've got the email here as well. So to trigger the email, you can automate this process, but otherwise you'll hit compose email here. And like I say, because I didn't attach a template, it's letting me write my own email. If I'd attached a template, that would automatically populate with the template that we've chosen. And we'll go ahead and hit update email, and that will drop it in the email queue to go out to the clients. And again, then once we mark that as complete, so we've sent the email, it will then give us the final submission. We'll say that's done. And then again, we can mark that as complete, and that will move on to the next deadline for us. So that's the tasks and the workflow. So very, very easy to manage, makes it very, very simple to see what's going on. You can export this out as well into a CSV if necessary. You can also log time on the system, so you can do that individually or against a specific task. So let's say I'm working on this client's payroll task here. I can log time directly against that task by clicking the clock icon on the task itself, and that will automatically attribute that time towards that particular job. I can choose whether it's chargeable or not, and so on in here. Once it starts counting, it will show you the duration here, and then you can save it. Or you have a time widget down at the bottom of the page, and this will follow you around on the system. So you'll see this at the bottom of every page where you can create a new time recording. And it's just as simple as clicking the button, and it will start automatically counting away down in the bottom of the screen. So you can carry on doing what you need to do, and that will just count along how long you've spent on that particular piece of work. And then when you need to finalize that and log it, just click on the pen icon here. It will come up and show you how long you've spent. It needs to be at least 1 minute, so we'll just update that there to say a minute. And then you can select which client you're working against. If it was working against a specific task, you can select which task you're working on, or you can put in a description here of what you were doing separately from that as well. And again, also select whether it's chargeable or not. If it's chargeable, you can have default hourly rates set on the system, or you can just enter your own into here. And then we'll go ahead and say this was an audit, and maybe we spent a few hours doing that. So let's say 180 minutes there, so 3 hours. And finalize. And that's then logged that time for you. So if we go into the timesheet itself here, we can see any previously logged time down at the bottom. So there's the 3 hours that I've just done there. And you can also, if you need to log time in bulk, so let's say you're going to spend the whole day out of the office at a client's, you can grab and just drag on the calendar here the length of the time log. So let's say, there we go. So from 9 till 5, we were at a meeting with the client. Again, let's say it was an audit. That was chargeable. And again, you can put in the value here. And hit save, and then that will log that bulk time for you. So you don't have to do it as run it as a stopwatch. If we scroll down there as well, we can see we've now got those additional time logs, and you can sort and filter these time logs here as well, just like we did with the tasks. You can filter by client type, by service. So if you want to see all time that's been logged against payroll or self-assessment returns, you can do that. You can also choose whether you just want to see the chargeable or the non-chargeable time there as well, and whether you want to see just one staff member or all staff together on the same list as well. So very, very useful. And then you also have, you are able to export that again, by the way, just like you can with the tasks. You've got your export button just in the corner there, and you've also got the work in progress, which will show any chargeable time that's been logged against a client. And you can choose whether to invoice that straight off, because you can generate invoices within BrightManager itself, whether you want to export that out to then import into another piece of software that you might be raising your invoices through. Although having said that, we do integrate with Xero and QuickBooks for invoicing as well. So if you've linked your Xero or your QuickBooks, then whenever you raise an invoice within BrightManager, it will automatically export those invoices out through into Xero or QuickBooks for you. Or you can clear them, which essentially is writing them off. So for example, let's say for whatever reason you didn't want to charge this £150 here to ABC, you can clear that off, and that'll go down as cleared WIP. And then you can also view previously invoiced and previously cleared WIP here as well. So you can see there's the £150 that we just cleared off. And again, for any reason, if you need to, you can export these pages out into separate CSVs. We're going to quickly take a look at the automation settings on BrightManager. There's a lot you can actually automate. So the whole idea around the automation within BrightManager is to save you time by automating all those mundane admin type things that you need to do from day to day, like chasing after clients for information, reminding clients that things are there, like documents that need to be signed and so on. And this is where you control all of your automation. So under settings, you've got the option for automation settings. That will bring you to this page where you can customize how much of the system you want to automate. So each of these are different types of automation. You can turn them all on or off individually. And you've got full control over things like the frequency of when it will email clients and so on. So as an example, you've got your automatic records requests here. So this is how the system will request information from clients when you reach the period end date. So it knows what the period end for each service is. And then you've got your schedule here of how often it will email the clients. This is all measured in X amount of days from the period end. So for your accounts, for example, it's counting up from 1 day after the period end, then 31 days, then 90 days, etc. So each one of those will be a separate email that goes to the client to remind them to send in their records. And like I say, once you tell the system that you've received them, it will stop asking for them. But this is the schedule that it will follow for each service. So let's say for VAT records, I wanted to add in another email at 21 days after the period end. All I need to do is just add a comma and then a 21. And that will update that and send another email at 21 days after the period end automatically for me. And so on. That's how it measures all of these different emails here. So over here, for example, you've got your latest action email. So these are triggered by specific updates on the task progress. So we mentioned part records earlier on, for example. So you've got your part records chasing here. But we just need to tell it how often we want it to send those emails out. So you might want the first one to be 1 day after the task is updated, and then maybe every few days after that until the client responds. And you can do the same for things like queries requested, awaiting approval, and payment outstanding as well. We also have reminders, for example, for clients to pay their tax on time. And you can see these are counting in reverse order. So these are counting down towards the payment deadline rather than counting up away from any period end or anything like that. But it's the same principle. You also have reminders for things like unsigned documents in the client portal, agent authorization codes. If you submitted your 64.8 through BrightManager, you can actually have the system chase after the client to get their authorization code before it expires. And you've got here missing client details as well. So this is a really useful one. So it will identify any information that's going to stop you from being able to complete all of your tasks, like, for example, UTR numbers, national insurance numbers, things like that. If they're not present within the client file, it will automatically email the client asking them for that information. And it does that on a weekly basis until you've got all the information that you need. Once the information's there, it stops asking for it. So once there's nothing to ask for, it just stops emailing them all together. And you've also got an option here to have the clients automatically sign a new letter of engagement after a certain amount of time. So we default to 365 days since the last letter of engagement was signed, but you can obviously change that if you want to as well. We also have here the email queue. So as the system generates emails to go out to clients, you're still in control of what goes out. So before they go out to the clients, they go into the queue here, which you're able to pause at any time. So if you wanted to stop the queue, see what's going on, see what emails are in there, you can do. You can then, for example, override the queue and choose to send emails immediately, or you can go in and edit an email before sending it or delete it from the queue entirely. It's completely up to you. We also got our company's house changes here as well. So this actually shows with company's house, it checks on a daily basis to see if there's been any changes between the information on the system and the information that's held on company's house. And if there's any changes between the two, it will show those changes here. So it might be things like confirmation statement dates. If you submitted the client's confirmation statements and company's house have updated that, it will show the difference here. Or it might be changes to company information if they've changed their address or anything like that. Again, it will show those changes here, and you'll have the ability to either approve those changes, which updates the system to match what's on Companies House, or for any reason, if you didn't want to update that particular piece of information, you can choose to ignore the changes, and it will keep the information on BrightManager the way it is, and ignore the change on Companies House. And we also have our integrations here as well. So this shows the software that we integrate with. I'm not going to go into too much detail on this, but you can see along here which software you're able to link BrightManager to. And you just need to click on it and then click the button to initiate that integration and then follow the steps. But you can see there we've got Xero, Free Agent, QuickBooks, Sage, Go Proposal, and a couple of others as well. This is very easy to do. And then just to finish off, I'm just going to jump back into the client file and just show you a few of the options that you've got. So this is our client list within the system. So this shows all of the clients that are currently on the system. You are able to import your existing clients into BrightManager as well. We do provide an import template for you to populate and pull in the information. And then it will populate all of the data in here. And then from here, you can actually sort and filter these in various ways as well. So for example, if you wanted to just see limited companies, you can click on the client type there, and that will bring us down to just the limited companies. You could then filter by service on top of that as well. So if you wanted to see all limited companies that have payroll, you click on payroll there, and it will drill down to just show that information. And you can filter against all sorts of things. So you can filter against maybe next submission dates or latest action dates. So you can use these to generate various views and reports that you want to see, which is really, really useful. You can also add in your own columns to this list as well. So any field within the system can be added as an additional column. And then if we just go and click back into our client here, you'll see there's a row of tabs along the top that give us access to different sections of the client file. We have our client timeline here, so this is super useful. So the system will log everything that's gone on with that client since they were created on the system. So changes to the client's information, incoming and outgoing emails between yourselves and the clients, documents that have been uploaded or downloaded or signed, they all get logged here. So you can see, for example, we've got the client signed their letter of engagement, and we're actually able to download a copy of that if we want to as well. We can see that the client updated their UTR number here and when it was updated as well. So all of that sort of information gets logged, and you're able to sort and filter between that information as well. So if you're looking for a particular email example from a client, you can find that by filtering. You can maybe say if you're looking for just emails and then within a particular time frame, or you can filter by searching for a particular word or phrase that was used in an email, and it will pull up anything it can find that matches that. So it's really useful for keeping track of what's gone on with the client. You can also see that I've logged time against the client there as well, and that's been noted too. It's also worth mentioning that the timeline is actually court admissible if necessary. So, you know, if you're saying to a client that you sent them an email at a certain time, you can actually pull up evidence that that email was sent and potentially that it's been read by the client as well. We also have access to the documents section. So this is your side of the client portal essentially. So you'll be able to view again any previously uploaded documents here. You'll also be able to upload documents to the client over here as well. Again, it's that same drag and drop process. So you just drag a file in. You can drag more than one at a time as well. It's worth mentioning. So you don't have to do documents one by one. You can drag a stack of documents in at the same time. Then you click upload. But because you're obviously the accountant, you've got more control over what you can do with that document. So for example, you could link that against a task. Or you could, if it's a PDF at least, you can request an e-signature against it as well, and then actually choose which contact from the client file is going to be the signatory for that. So at the moment, we've only got the one contact. If we had a secondary contact, we could actually choose between them. And we can also choose whether we want to make that document visible or not to the client as well, which is really useful. So go ahead and click save, and that will then upload that document as well. You can also create your own folders to keep things organized as well, and the client will see those folders mirrored on their side of the portal. You can see there's a custom forms page. So well, I'm not going to go into that in this demo, but you are able to create your own custom forms. Think of it like creating a Google questionnaire, for example. You'll then be able to place that within the client's portal for the client to complete, and it will be sent back to you, and you'll be able to view it in here. You can view or download the client's current letter of engagement. We've seen the risk assessments already. You have a deadlines page here where you can again easily see the upcoming deadlines for the clients, and if you need to quickly send them out as an email. You can also customize the workflows. This is really useful actually. So if you've got certain clients that are not going to be subject to the standard workflow templates that you might use, you can actually customize them for specific clients within here. And the same as well, you can actually customize the automation that a client will receive within here as well, which is really useful. You can see here you've also got invoices that will just show any invoices that have been raised against the client. Resources are just bits of useful information that you might want to store about a client. It might be simple things like their coffee order, or it might be, you know, addresses or things like that that you need to store. Company's House allows you to submit the company's confirmation statement to Company's House. There is a charge if you choose to do that. We do charge an admin fee, so it's the standard Company's House filing fee plus an admin fee for doing it through BrightManager. I'm not able to demonstrate that, unfortunately, because I'm using a demo account, but it will just give you all the information about the company. There's an email that you can trigger to send out to the client just to get them to confirm that information is correct, and then you can submit that through to Company's House. And then just to finish off here, you've got your HMRC 64.8 page. So you're actually able to submit the agent authorization requests directly to HMRC through the system. And like I say, that will actually trigger the automation to chase after them for their authentication code as well, to make sure that you get that before it expires. But I hope that gives you a flavour of what BrightManager can do and how it will benefit your practice. It's all the time we've got today, unfortunately, but if you do have any questions, obviously feel free to contact us. But thank you for joining, and have a nice day.